Hello everybody and welcome back again one more time to Assassin's Creed 2 and my little verdict video where I would like to share a few thoughts on the game. And I say little verdict video because I will try to make this not too long, but sometimes I tend to ramble a bit, so we'll see how long it's going to be in the end. And yeah, I am back in Monteriggioni, and this is actually where the game put me after the end credits. So we are post main story now. As you can see, I actually have Rodrigo Borgia on my wall now, even though I didn't actually kill him, which is one of the issues I'm going to discuss later. But let's have a look at the painting. This is a picture of the Templar Grand Master Rodrigo Borgia, who ordered and oversaw the murder of my father and brothers in his quest for dominion. He sought the contents of the Vatican vault, becoming Pope in the process. And yeah, he's still alive. And we also have this portrait over now, Savonarola. I'm not sure if I looked at this before. This is a picture of Girolamo Savonarola, Dominican priest, ouster of the Medici family, leader of Florence, and instigator of the Bonfire of the Vanities. Date of death 1498. Alright, so apparently we have all the portraits now, which means my villa is probably at 100% now. Anyway, I think I'm going to go outside to the rooftops again because it's just a nice view from there, and then we're going to talk about the game. And this is not the right way to get out of here. Alright, as you probably know, when I do one of these verdict videos, I usually talk about two different aspects of the game. One is the technical aspect, which is like the graphics and the gameplay, and the other is the story and narrative elements and stuff like that. So let's talk about the technical aspects first, and I don't really have that much to say in that regard because I don't really have much to criticize. As I mentioned pretty early in this Let's Play, I think the game has aged pretty well. I mean, it's like 10 years old, but it still looks pretty neat. I mean, the scenery still look very convincing, and one thing that I like in particular is the design of the cities, because on the one hand, they needed to be, well, sort of realistic. I guess they don't accurately, realistically portray all the facets of medieval or Renaissance life. But I think they are very lifelike and they have a good, convincing atmosphere. But at the same time, they also had to be suited for parkouring. So you had to be able to climb all the surfaces and be able to get from one side of the city to the other. And I think they actually were able to combine these two things quite well. So they have cities that look realistic enough and at the same time are easy to parkour. So I'm pretty sure that wasn't all that easy to accomplish. So I would like to mention this in particular. Other stuff in regards to the technical aspect, I think for a 10-year-old game it had pretty decent facial animations. The voice acting was pretty good for the most part, so again, I don't have much to criticize here. As for the gameplay, for the most part I was happy with the gameplay. Obviously there are a few quirks in the game that I already commented on during the game, particularly wonky cameras, fixed camera angles inside these quote-unquote dungeons, you know, when you were in a church or a crypt. I don't know, I guess that maybe if you're playing with a controller then the fixed camera is not such a big issue, but if you're playing with a mouse and you are used to, you know, move the camera in order to steer, it is very disorienting. And, you know, we had minor issues like the prompts on the screen not being like the actual keys that you have to push, but just symbols. I mean, I got used to it after a while, but it just feels unnecessary to do that. It's not very user-friendly, I would say. But for the most part, I think the gameplay was fine. I could steer Ezio quite well for the most part, with some minor quirks and the occasional wonkiness. But other than that, I don't have many complaints in that regard. I did like the fact that the missions were kinda sandboxy, so you had different ways to approach your target. You could try to climb on the roofs and air assassinate, or maybe you wanted to approach from the streets and hide in a group of people, or maybe you just wanted to draw your sword and, storm in, guns blazing, or, swords blazing, or whatever. So there was a certain amount of freedom in how you wanted to approach a mission. Obviously, there wasn't really the option to, not kill people. I mean, there is the option to avoid unnecessary collateral damage, I suppose. I mean, you could try to sneak around guards instead of assassinate them and stuff like that. But for the most part, I think there was a lot of freedom in how you wanted to accomplish any given mission, and I kind of like that, sandboxy feel that the game gives you. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all that I need to say about the gameplay, I guess. And I'm still getting money, which is funny. But I guess I could, continue side quests if I still had any open, right? But yeah, now let's talk about the rest of the game, which is the story for the most part. Now, I remember from when I played the first Assassin's Creed game that the story was, well, not all that great. The main story anyway. The interesting part of the story was basically the background lore. So you had an exposition at the beginning, and then you had the main part of the game, which was super repetitive because the missions always worked exactly the same way. And then you had the final part where you again had a bunch of exposition, and that was actually the most interesting part of the game, when you learned about all these secrets and the Apple of Eden and stuff like that. But the main game, where you went just from city to city and followed a very particular pattern for each mission, was not very interesting, obviously. And they definitely try to improve that in this game by giving you much more variety when it comes to missions, and much more diverse side missions. I mean, sure, in the end it's all about, find your target and kill it, but within that, framework, I think they managed to get the most out of it by giving you different, requirements to fulfill a mission and stuff like that. So that is definitely an improvement over the first game. And it also gave them the possibility to give us a somewhat more engaging storyline. So we have our character Ezio, who is, quite an endearing hero, and we can see him grow over quite a long time. I think it's 10, 15 years. I kind of lost track of how many years have passed since the beginning, but it has been quite a while, and we can see, well, some character development and some character arc here, and that's actually kind of nice. I didn't really get that impression with Altair, except for the end, when he finally learns the truth. So I guess he had some character development. And from what I've heard, a lot of people didn't like Altair. I actually didn't mind him, but he certainly didn't get the same character development as Ezio did. One thing that I would like to talk about in particular is the ending of the game, because that is probably my major issue with the game, because the ending feels a bit cut off, literally. I mean, we have that final part of the game that is still going on while the credits are already rolling, which is super weird. And you can't help but wonder if they had already like planned for a sequel when they made this, because it definitely feels like it, since the ending is kinda open. So let's talk about the ending. I mean, there's basically three different aspects of the end. First, we have Ezio's final confrontation with Rodrigo Borgia, and then his decision not to kill him. I don't really know how I feel about this, to be honest. I also don't know if I like the final battle against Rodrigo, you know, the fist fighting, because I can't decide whether it's like super cool or super lame to have the final fight be a normal standard fist fight. I don't know, but it's strange. It's kind of strange. So, and then we defeat him, and then Ezio suddenly decides, oh well, I'm not going to kill you. Again, I don't know how I feel about this, because on the one hand I think, you know, that's actually a nice bit of character development and a nice end to his character arc, for this game anyway. Because revenge was basically his major driving factor throughout the whole game, and he was really obsessed with getting revenge for most of the game. So I guess it is a nice development at the end for him to realize that, well, maybe the revenge isn't going to help me and is not going to make me feel better and is not bringing my family back. So that's nice, I guess. On the other hand, it feels a little bit weird, because just for that particular mission when Ezio was entering the Vatican, he killed like 24 guards, you know, people that haven't even harmed him personally, just to get to Borgia, and then when he finally gets to him, he doesn't kill him, the one person he wanted to kill all this time, while all the other people are lying around him in their own blood. That is, I don't know how I feel about this. And yes, I get it, of course he wasn't just there for Borgia, he also wanted to get into the vault and get the apple. So all the dead people that he killed to get it there weren't like completely in vain. But it still feels a little bit strange to me. And I also understand that one of the reasons why he didn't kill him is simply because Rodrigo Borgia was not supposed to die in that year. You know, it wouldn't be historical accurate. However, I actually looked it up and I found out that Rodrigo Borgia died in 1503. So that's 4 years after the final of this game, I believe. So technically, if they wanted Ezio to kill Borgia at the end, they could have just, you know, skipped ahead another 4 years. And they did a lot of gratuitous time skips, so it wouldn't really have mattered to go ahead 4 more years so that Ezio could actually kill Borgia, right? So the fact that they didn't do that makes me kind of suspicious. So I wonder if we're going to see Borgia again in the next game. And if that's the case, yeah, I don't know how I feel about this, because I feel this game should have gotten more closure in that regard. I mean, it's fine to leave some open ends and to leave, you know, a bit of a cliffhanger for a potential new story, but at least finish the story that you have started in this game. For comparison, if you think about Mass Effect 1, spoiler alert if you haven't played that game yet, Mass Effect 1 ended with a bit of a cliffhanger because you knew there was a Reaper invasion coming, but you were at least able to beat the big bad of, you know, that game, which was Sovereign. So it would be kinda like, you know, if Mass Effect ended with Shepard not being able to kill Sovereign for some reason, and that would be, you know, then the plot of the second game. So I think he should have killed Borgia, to be honest, or at least do something else to make sure that he's no danger anymore. But the way it is, it feels a little bit unfinished. But anyway, I do appreciate the attempt of giving him some character development, I guess. And yeah, then we have like the second part of the ending, which is basically what happens inside the vault. when he's talking to, I think Minerva was her name. Now that was an interesting part. It was a huge info dump, so I had to watch it again to wrap my mind around all that info. And I actually went back and looked at some of the glyph puzzles, because there is a clear relation between the glyph puzzles and what Minerva told us in the vault. So I have some ideas and some theories about what's going on. So these creatures, the ones that came before, well, I'm not sure if it's implied that they are aliens. I guess they could be aliens. They could also be just another species that just evolved earlier, and they were already like highly advanced a few million years ago. And they apparently engineered the human evolution and made, the modern human what the modern human is. So turning them from primates into humans. There is actually a glyph, one of the last glyphs, I believe, where this is implicated. And that weird video sequence that we collected in the Truth Quest seems to show like two of these humans probably escaping from the city or whatever that is, that was built by these creatures that already lived on Earth and that were super advanced. And apparently there was some kind of struggle between the humans and these, let's just call them gods for a lack of better term, because it's essentially what they presented themselves as. I mean, Minerva has the name of a Roman god, and she mentioned a few other Roman gods, and she also mentioned some Etruscan gods. So basically the Etruscan equivalents to the Roman gods. So there was a struggle between the humans and the gods, and apparently then most of the gods were destroyed by a changing of the electromagnetic field of the sun or something to that extent. And I think Minerva is trying to warn us about another catastrophe of that kind. So that is basically the backstory that I'm getting from the ending, in combination with some of the puzzles that we already solved earlier. Now, here's the thing. There is obviously a big question here. If there was a struggle between the humans and the gods, why is she trying to help us now? Did they change their mind about humans having autonomy? Because I get the impression that humans were basically like their slaves, maybe. So maybe they just changed their mind about it and are now trying to help us. Or maybe there's just different kind of gods, some of which are more friendly towards humans than others, which would actually match nicely with a lot of ancient mythologies. For example, if you think about, in particular, the original flood myth of the Akkadian, Sumerian, and Babylonian account, where, well, it's basically the biblical flood myth as we know it, with the major difference, obviously, that it plays in a polytheistic setting. So we have some gods that are cruel and vengeful, and they want to destroy humans because humans were getting too many and were too loud and were just annoying, so they wanted to destroy them. And then we have, the kind and merciful God who helps humans and tells, one of them, go build an ark and, save humanity. So I guess this would fit this narrative that, some of them might be, friendly disposed towards humans and want to help them, while others are just big assholes who want to enslave us. I don't know. That's just my personal theory. And don't actually tell me the real story of what's going on, because that would be a spoiler. So I'm just putting my thoughts out here, and I hope that at some point the future games will answer this. But yeah, that's what I'm getting from that other portion of the end, where Ezio's talking to Minerva, or is, well, not talking to Minerva, because Minerva is apparently talking to Desmond. And that's actually a reason why I'm glad that there's going to be a sequel with Ezio, because to be honest, I feel Ezio in this game gets no real closure as a character at all. I mean, he doesn't kill Rodrigo Borgia. I mean, maybe he realizes that he doesn't want to anymore. But then he enters a vault to get answers, and, Minerva isn't even trying to talk to him. It's just, you're not important. So that's a terrible ending, for his character arc, to be honest. So I'm glad that there's going to be a sequel, and maybe his character will get a bit more closure in, well, the final game maybe. And the final game is called Revelations, so hopefully he will get the revelation that he's looking for. But yeah, that's a part of the ending that I am a little bit ambiguous about, because I feel that it kind of dismisses Ezio as a character of this game, and, literally ignores him. So that's a bit sad. And yeah, then we finally have like the third part of the ending, which is the one that plays in the present with Desmond and the others fleeing their hideout. And I think it's a weird design choice to do it during the credits. I didn't like that at all, I have to be honest about that. So let's summarize. I'm ambiguous about the ending, because some parts of it I think should have been done better. The story should have gotten more closure. The character should have gotten more closure, even if they already planned for a sequel, because it's okay to leave a few open threads. It's okay to open up a new storyline for, a sequel, but finish the one that you started. And I feel that they didn't fully finish the story of this game. So it's not a big issue for me, because, I'm going to play The Walking Dead now for, I don't know, a few weeks, and then I'm going back to the next Assassin's Creed game. But when you played this originally, you probably had to wait for like, I don't know, a year at least to get the continuation of that story. So yeah, I feel you shouldn't leave your players with so many questions. So yeah, these are basically my ramblings on the game and the ending in particular, and I don't know, what do you think about it? Do you like the ending? Did you maybe play it when the game came out originally, and did you feel a little bit disappointed that the story didn't really have closure and you couldn't just continue to play the next game at that point? I don't know, let me know what you think. And yeah, I guess I'm going to end it here. I hope you will return once I start Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, or maybe you want to watch one of my other series. I would appreciate it. So, as usual, thank you for watching, and see you again next time.